vile bunch in the leadership. I don't mean to suggest that every person involved in these groups is some kind of on-road plants, but I think that's clearly not true. But the leadership is really foul. Let me say, you got a little more time? 10, 15 minutes?
Someone help me.
Okay, I'll just keep talking. Let me know.
How about 5?
Let me talk a little bit about what we do. You know, first of all, we do a lot of law enforcement training. We train up to 6,000, federal agents, detectives, hate crime instructors, that kind of thing every year. Similar, ADL does very similar work. So we do a great deal of that. We do a lot of, I think that what we do is kind of fact-based advocacy. That's really, we're trying to, like I said, I'm trying to say about, I'm talking about the nativist leaders. Look, this is what they really are. We're not telling you that you should have unlimited immigration. We're saying, look, the people need this movement. So there's a lot of public information work. Of course, the magazine, which I think most people saw, is our primary vehicle for that. But I want to give an idea for the kind of work that we do. I mean, for instance, some of them are really just fun stories. But when I said early at the beginning that our aim is to destroy these groups and we try to play hardball with them, I want to give a sense of what we mean. A few years ago, we started to look at a group called the Knights of Freedom. It was a small neo-Nazi group led by, of all things, out of this sophomore dormitory room at Wofford College in Spartanburg, South Carolina. It turned out very quickly in this case, we realized that his legal name was Davis Wolfgang Huck, a really scary Aryan type. Well, come to find out, very quickly in fact, that this kid's real name was, Goldbaum was his name. He was Jewish. He was a Jewish kid who had some major issues with his parents. It was really quite nutty. The point was, and the effect of us publicizing that was to completely and utterly obliterate the group. I mean, immediately what happened was, you can see it on the internet, they're all across the white supremacist movement, they're, no kosher Knights, right? And then, red circle is slashed through for KOF, no kosher Nazis, that kind of thing. Ultimately, Randy wasn't there to save this guy, but he had, I tell you just as a funny postscript, that this man now is the largest seller, and I hope I don't offend anyone in the audience by saying this, he is the largest seller of penis enlargement pills on the internet. So he's being pursued, a huge civil judgment against him as a scammer. I guess I don't know if we've helped the world or hurt it by taking him away from politics and into biology, I guess. Other kinds of, I just want to give you an idea of the different kinds of things we've done. Sometimes one of the interesting aspects of the work is that we've come to realize, especially since we put the magazine up on the internet, we've come to realize, strangely enough, that probably our most assiduous readers are actually members of the movement, because there really is no publication that covers their world in a kind of comprehensive, fact-based way. And that has allowed us to do some really interesting things. And I'll just try and tell you briefly one story. For 30 years, our main nemesis out there has been the National Alliance Group I mentioned earlier. It's the main neo-Nazi group in America for a very long time. The National Alliance is headed by a guy named William Pierce, who was in fact a university physics professor out in Oregon before he became leader, founder of this group. This was a very smart and savvy guy with very difficult opponents. We sued him and won an $85,000 judgment for our client. It really didn't come to much, didn't slow him down at all. What happened was that Pierce died very unexpectedly of cancer in July of 2002. And a very short time after that, we got hold of a particular videotape. I could tell you how we got it, but then I'd have to kill you, so I can't do that. But the videotape, what it showed was it showed Pierce's last speech before he died. It was a speech given to a secret meeting called his leadership conference on April 20th of that year, actually Hitler's birthday. And what Pierce said in the speech was he was talking to his 80, it's a group of about 1,400 people. The leadership conference was 80 of the top dogs from the group. And what he said to them was he started to talk about the members of other hate groups. And he said, we should be glad that the World Church of the Creator and the Aryan nations exist because they serve to draw away from us the human defectives. He said the people who, he said there is no movement He said the so-called movement is made up of freaks and weaklings. And kind of went on in this vein. It was quite something for this guy to say. He was talking about skinheads and Randy's friends. Freaks and weaklings. Well, we understood very quickly when we got this tape that if we publicized this, it would have a real consequence. And in fact, that's what we did. I wrote a cover story for the magazine, and it did not particularly emphasize the freaks and weaklings speech. It kind of went and started with him on his deathbed, he died, and this happened, and then did a few paragraphs that sort of backed in to what happened, what the speech was. And then we kind of quoted quite a lot of the speech. And also, as it happened, the guy who became Pierce's successor after Pierce died, and then a boxer named Eric Levy, gave very similar remarks about the movement and demeaning the movement and so on. Well, when we published that, the effect of it was to almost immediately create these splits within the National Alliance, and it really felt like landing a huge artillery shell right in the middle of him. I mean, I'd like to sort of totally take credit for destroying the National Alliance. I think that wouldn't be true. The fact is Eric Levy was a horrible manager and made a lot of enemies on the way, but I think it's absolutely true that the way we publicized that and followed that story up essentially created splits in this group that absolutely destroyed any possibility of it being what it had been, which was the preeminent group on the scene. And I'll say, because we're running out of time, but in order to sort of pound the final nail in that coffin, towards the end of the National Alliance's sort of more powerful days, we monitor these groups very closely. What that means in practice is, if they publish something, we get it. So, one of the things we saw was that, along about 2003, I think it was, they published, and this was very much aimed at bringing back the credibility of their group in the eyes of other people. I'm sorry, I forgot a very essential fact in describing the National Alliance, sort of what we did. What I didn't explain was that the National Alliance was grossing about $1 million a year at the time that Pierce died. Most of that money, a portion, maybe 35–40%, came from dues, but the bulk of that money came from their white power music operation, Resistance Records. And I'm sorry, I didn't tell the story very well. What we realized when we got that tape was that Pierce, in effect, was talking about the customers of Resistance Records. So, it wasn't merely starting splits, it was destroying their economic base, because what happened was right away, racist skinheads all over America said, I'm not buying any of that son of a bitch, just I'll go to some other white power music distributor. And so, it robbed them of the money they really needed to continue. To jump back to where I was, the final nail in the coffin is this, we got a hold of a calendar they published, Girls of Resistance, and the calendar was very much supposed to bring Resistance Records kind of back to prominence. It was going to be an important PR move on their part and so on. And it was not supposed to be a salacious calendar, right? There were no naked women in the calendar. These were really supposed to be examples of sort of, Aryan womanhood and what a real woman should be and so on. Well, because we followed the group so closely, we knew that the leaders of the National Alliance, Eric Levy and his deputy then, Sean Walker, frequented this place called Lady Godiva's. It was an all-nude strip club about 40 miles from their headquarters in West Virginia. And what we did when we got this calendar was the obvious thing. Just here's this woman on the front. She's in a Confederate flag bikini on some gigantic Harley Davidson, and we know the name of the place, Lady Godiva's. I remember going up on the website of Lady Godiva's, and by God, there's a picture of a woman on the front page of the calendar. So in other words, we're able to write ostensibly to our broad mainstream audience, but in effect, really to the movement. You know where your dues are going, boys? They're going to pay for this woman to do lap dances, for the leaders of your group. They're not saving the Aryan race at all. And, so that was another kind of sort of campaign. I'd love to talk more. I guess I don't have more to say. But, let me say finally that I think that this came up in our media panel, that, I think that it is very important to see from, I think, the remarks I've made. I think it's extremely important to talk to the press, to involve the press in these things, and to try and ensure that the press's coverage of hate crimes, of hate groups, of these kinds of incidents, these issues, is informed, in fact, by the facts, so that you don't let a guy like Lou Dobbs get away with saying immigrants have brought 7,000 cases of leprosy to this country in 3 years. When it turns out the fact is that there are 398 cases in 3 years. It has nothing to do with immigrants. You know, I think the press is a powerful ally and an important institution, and I think it's really critical that it be used in this battle. The final thing I want to say is just that, you know, what we hope to do at SPLC is, you know, we are not a grassroots organization. That's what you all are. And so, you know, what we hope very much when we produce this investigative work is that our work will be taken by grassroots people, you know, at the community level to fight these battles, so that, you know, when Chris Simcox comes to your town to say I'm a patriotic American, you know, to say that our country's got to stop this immigration, that, you know, someone is able to stand up and say, the guy's out of his mind. Listen to what he says when the TV cameras aren't next to him. In any case, I think you people are really the heart of the kind of battle back against this movement, and so I commend you. Thank you.